The story of the life of Britta Swartz begins before she was born, way back in the 1920s in Sweden, in the city of Göteborg. In the 1920s, there lived in Göteborg a young man named Carl Lidén. He was the son of a metalworker, one of 6 children. In the year 1923, when he was 22 years old, Carl Lidén took a job on a boat that was traveling to America. After his ship arrived in America, in Baltimore, Maryland, he jumped ship and abandoned his job, making his way up to New York City. When he arrived in New York, he took on a job as a laborer, working on building the skyscrapers in Manhattan. After a few years, he moved on again and made his way out to Toledo, Ohio, working as an apprentice in a business that made scales, with plans to take his new skills back to Sweden and start his own business. He spent 3 years in America, and when he was ready to return home with his new business plans, he went back out to the East Coast, boarded another boat, and crossed the Atlantic Ocean back to Sweden. Meanwhile, back in Sweden, there lived a young woman named Gerda Rydberg. She was the oldest of 6 children and lived in the town of Sundsvall, north of Stockholm. When she was 12 years old, her mother had died, and as a result, she had taken on the role of surrogate mother for her younger siblings. An older relative living in America, a sister of her grandfather, had paid for Gerda's education, allowing her to study to become a teacher. When she was 20 years old and her studies were complete, her American relative wanted to meet Gerda in person and arranged for her to travel to America to visit. In the summer of 1926, Gerda took a boat to America and visited her benefactor and toured New York City. By coincidence, which she would often recall to her grandchildren in later years, she had the fortune to be in New York City in late August of that year, when the famous silent movie actor Rudolph Valentino died suddenly while in the city promoting his newest film. His casket was carried through the streets of Manhattan, with 80,000 mourning fans lining the streets, watching his funeral procession pass by, causing several riots. Gerda was in those crowds that day, standing amongst the frenzied fans, a memory she was always proud of. It was on her return trip back home to Sweden that Gerda Rydberg met Carl Lidén, who happened to be on board the same boat, returning home from his 3 years in America. They quickly became close friends, and 2 years later were married, in the year 1928. Together they would have 6 children, beginning in 1930 with their son Leonard. Next came their daughter Kerstin, then their son Olle, then their daughter Karin. Their 5th child, born in 1943, was Britta, and at the tail end came their last son, Gunnar. Britta grew up in the town of Sävedalen, outside of Göteborg, where her father ran his business making scales. Her family also spent their summers at their second house on the coast, in Hästavik, on the shore of the North Sea. Britta moved away from home at the age of 16 and attended vocational school, graduating the following year when she was 17, in the year 1960. She then worked for a year in the town of Örebro, at the offices of the Christian youth organization, The Navigators, working for a group headed by Paul Liljenberg, with whom she would remain friends for many years.
I remember when you came to Örebro, and it was a heavenly sunshine over your face, and it really lightened up the home in Ängatan 24.
I will always remember your first day with us at Ängatan 24 in Örebro in 1960. I was so impressed with you, Britta, just a teenager at the time, and you had sewn a dress for our 4-year-old daughter, Katrin. Well, that was my first proof of your great generosity, which we have experienced so many times over the years. Thank you so much for your lasting friendship.
In the summer of 1962, Britta worked for a short time as a nanny for another pastor in Stockholm named Bertil Paulsson, a prominent evangelist in Sweden at the time. He would play a pivotal role in Britta's life, as he himself recalls.
Det påstås att jag en gång gav Britta rådet att gifta sig med Leonard. Det måste ha varit två egenskaper jag hade. Dels måste jag haft en väldig visdom, och för det andra så måste jag ha haft ganska mycket auktoritet. Att Britta, denna självständiga kvinna, skulle bry sig om vad jag sa. Men nu efteråt, nog verkar det som om jag var en sann profet den gången när jag gav rådet. Leonard, vilken make han fick, och Britta, vilken man hon fick. Och nu påstår man att Britta ska fylla 60 år. It sounds unbelievable. För mig är Britta fortfarande en ung gymnasiestudent som jag lärde känna genom Paul Liljenberg och navigatörerna i Göteborg.
In Stockholm lived a young man named Leonard Swartz, who was studying engineering at the Royal Academy of Technology. He was also involved in the same Christian youth organization as Britta, and had attended a Bible conference in the summer of 1959, where he first met Britta, when she was 16 and he was 22.
In the summer of 1959, he arranged a Bible conference, Paul did, and I went there, but I had another girlfriend at the time, but I did meet Britta, but didn't get a chance to get to know her very well, of course. A few months later, in the fall of 1959, Paul called a meeting of, shall we say, the inner circle to meet the international president of the navigators. We met in a little place in the countryside, and I remember this meeting very vividly. I remember sitting on a bench next to Britta, and I remember my two impressions. One was, what a cute girl. She was 16. The other impression was, wow, what a personality. I don't think I've ever met a person like this before. Back in those days, school days started with devotions, and they were always led by some exceptionally boring teacher. So it was a time that all the kids hated, and they were sitting there asleep. They were required to attend. And Britta told me that, she said, I volunteered to have devotion in front of the whole school once, gave my testimony. And I remember thinking, wow, I do not think that I would dare do such a thing. So impressed I was.
Britta and Leonard dated for about 4 years and were married in March of 1963. In February of 1964, Britta gave birth to her first child, Christer, whom she named after the son of Paul Liljenberg, her former employer. Once he was born, however, Britta and Leonard needed a vacation, so they left him in Sweden and embarked on a trip to America with a choir that they were both members of.
Nu fortsätter vi med Heaven is a Wonderful Place.
Heaven is a wonderful place, filled with glory and grace. I want to see my Jesus face. Heaven is a wonderful place.
They spent several months touring across America with their choir, and during one leg of their trip, they passed through the San Francisco Bay Area, an area of the country they would later return to and settle down in permanently. After their trip, they returned to Sweden, and soon after, in May of 1966, Britta gave birth to her second child, Caroline. If you do the math, it turns out that she would be the first of Britta's children to have been made in America. The following year, in 1967, Leonard and Britta and their 2 children moved to America, where Leonard had accepted a job in the San Francisco Bay Area, working for a company called Leonard. They moved in May of 1967 to San Mateo, California, a state they would remain in for most of the following 4 decades.
I met them on the 4th of June at Svenska Flaggans Dag celebration in, I think the park is in Fremont, and I think the name of the park is Mission Park. And they came there, I heard about them because Leah and Leonard Boston told me the story. That they had, Britta had one day a syjunta party.
Okay.
And Leonard was home and they lived in an apartment in Stockholm. And I guess it was not the big apartment and it was cold. But anyway, he had walked out on the deck, the apartment's deck, and closed the door and locked himself out. This is a funny story that Lilian told me. So and it was really funny. Just a few days before I met them, in my dream I went through this. I dreamt about them, and then I met them on the 4th of June.
They spent 11 months living in the town of San Mateo at a house on Bayview Avenue before moving down south to Redwood City in April of 1968 to their house on Loyola Avenue, where they would live for the next 9 years. While living here, Britta gave birth to 2 more children. Daniel was born in February of 1970, becoming the first of their children to be born in America. In October of 1975, Britta gave birth to her 4th child, David. His birth completed the list of the 4 Swartz children.
The first time I remember meeting Britta, that was in what I believe in December of or late November in 1967, and we were. Berit brought me to your home in San Mateo. I remember it was on the hill, and they were practicing for Lucia for the Siemens mission, and Barb, what's her name, Engelbrechtsen. Berit Engelbrechtsen was in charge, and I remember little kids, Caroline and Christer, and that was my first memory of Britta and Leonard.
Memorable?
What I understand, Britta, she is smarter than Leonard, because Leonard is quite stupid when it comes to certain things. So when they buy furniture or something, they need to have assembly there. I heard that Leonard, he was trying to put them together there, and it took him forever, and he couldn't do it. So Britta, she come there and she fixed it in no time. That's what I heard.
It was during these years, living on Loyola in the 1970s, that Britta first met her good friend, Leah Schindelman, with whom she would remain friends for many years.
Okay. So I remember the first time I met met Britta, your mom. Your dad had come, we had a prayer meeting at our house up the street, and your dad had come to see what was going on there. And then he told me that we found out that Caroline and Teresa were in school together. I think it was actually Caroline who said, "You should come down and meet my mom." So I felt a little uneasy going down to meet your mom because your dad looked very straight, and we were like really hippies. And I didn't feel real comfortable with straight people. So, but I thought, well, I should meet the mother of my daughter's friend. So I went down and knocked on the door, and she warmly welcomed me into the house, and I felt very accepted, even in my weird state. So I just want to say that Britta's always been extremely helpful, always has good advice to give me, is always encouraging, and I just want to wish you a wonderful birthday, and this year, your 60th, I can say that because I'm older, will be better than any other. Happy birthday.
While living on Loyola, Britta's parents, Gerda and Carl, made their one and only joint trip from Sweden to America to visit their daughter in 1970. It was the first time Britta and Leonard would act as tour guides through San Francisco and the surrounding areas of their new home, a task they would repeat countless times in the following decades for many other visitors.
I have a little story to share, which kind of typifies your mom. When we first met your dad, your mom and dad then decided that they wanted to have a Bible study at their house and invite all the hippies who lived down at the court down the street, who had just become Christians, over for this Bible study. So your mom and dad weren't sure how to get us to come, so they invited us over, and your mom made bulla and the Swedish coffee cake bread, and served us Pete's coffee. And after eating bulla and drinking the coffee, we were hooked, and then we had the Bible study. And I am still addicted to Pete's coffee, so thank you, Britta, and I want to wish you a happy 60th and many more.
Your mom came into the hospital room of Helena, and she had known through one of your neighbors who had a son who had cancer at the same hospital. And she came in and said just, hello, how are you, and talked to our daughter, and me, Steve wasn't there. And the next morning she came in again with a huge pepperpox sauce, which she had made late in the evening during the night for our daughter. And I thought that was, the most fantastic thing to do that. She had never met us before. Just saw this little Swedish girl that was sick in the hospital and brought the pepperpox sauce, and we have been friends ever since.
In October of 1977, Britta and Leonard decided to pick up and move once again. They decided to leave the nice California weather and move to the harsh, cold weather of Chicago, to the town of Lombard. They would remain in Lombard for all of 2 years, living in 2 different houses. It was fun living there for their children, but Britta and Leonard eventually decided that they preferred the West Coast and decided to pick up once again and move back.
Well, thinking about your mother, it's really hard for me to remember when we first made a connection. And I probably most vividly is when you guys returned the whole family came back from Chicago. But I remember she decided we would have a boutique in her garage, and so the two of us were making things. We just didn't make one thing. She knit, like a dozen hats. She'd make I see things like this. She'd make a lot of these little dollies, and of course I was her best customer because I must have bought 4 or 5 or 6 of them.
Milestone.
Britta, I can't imagine that you're so young. You're only 60? Gosh. Oh, well, you're looking good.
Throughout the next 2 decades, Britta and Leonard would move several more times, never being content to stay in any one place for too long. Throughout the years, her children grew up and left home, leaving her and Leonard a couple once again. After a few more moves, they eventually wound up in Carlsbad, Southern California, where they live today. There are many people who have been a part of Britta's life who have some words of congratulations they would like to pass on today. From her youngest brother, Gunnar.
Ja, hej Britta, det här är Gunnar och grattis på den stora 60-årsdagen. Vi är nu här ute där du har dina rötter och vi trivs jättebra här. Och som Anita sa, vi skulle jättegärna vilja komma och hälsa på dig och man vet aldrig, en vacker dag kanske vi poppar upp. I varje fall, ha en jättefin 60-årsdag och ta vara på dig. Tack, ha det bra, hej.
From her older brother, Olle.
Hej Britta, Anita och Olle, ja du hör vem det är. Vi önskar dig ha nära för det första och önskar lycka till för följande år. Du liksom jag bör nu komma upp, jag har kommit upp i mogen ålder och du har också gjort det. Och när jag tänker tillbaka i tiden så minns jag då vår stora syster Kerstin som nu är borta. Hon utnyttjade mig till 110% att vara barnvakt åt er, Karin, du och Gunnar när han så småningom kom. Kerstin fick då andra intressen och jag råkade illa ut och fick vakta er tre. Och jag minns det var att du var livlig, lite rund och godmodig, men var pigg på att smita iväg så att jag fick då passa på dig speciellt. Vi önskar dig lycka till i framtiden och ha det så bra och vi kommer så småningom att komma över och hälsa på dig. Tack så, hej!
From her oldest brother, Leonard.
Ja, hej Britta. Maud och jag önskar dig en glad och trevlig 60-årsdag. Hoppas att du och din familj alla mår bra och vi önskar dig många år vid god hälsa framöver. Ha det så bra.
From her older sister, Karin.
Britta, min kära syster. Jag och min familj vill gratulera dig på födelsedagen. Livet börjar vid 60. Då gör vi som vi vill. Välkommen in i den tredje åldern. Jag ser fram emot att träffa dig i sommar. Det var ju inte så länge sedan vi såg sist. Allt gott önskar jag dig för ditt nya levnadsår och rätt oss framöver. Ha det så bra.
Britta's oldest sister, Kerstin, passed away in 2002 and is not here to witness Britta's milestone. However, her daughter, Margareta, sends these greetings on behalf of her mother.
Britta, det här är Margareta som pratar. Det här kommer egentligen ifrån min mamma, din stora syster. Hon sitter i himlen och ler mot dig. Hon talade alltid så gott om dig. Hon tyckte så mycket om dig. Här kommer en stor grattiskram från henne. Och här är en från mig. Ha en riktigt bra dag idag och alla dagar i framtiden. Och vi kommer alla att ses i Nangijala när den tiden kommer. Hej då.
And now I think back on those years and know that when I've looked through the time we have met and visited you in different places, it has always been the same shine, the same love. Grattis på födelsedagen, Britta!
Yeah, Britta, it's amazing that you reached this point. 60 is a big day. But we wish you all the best and God bless you and happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I wish you a happy birthday.
Yeah, sure. I wish very, very happy birthday and hope you will have a bright future.
Well, Britta, I'm glad you have reached this mature age of 60, and I wish you all the best, and I really enjoy having you as a friend, and you are a good friend, and we enjoy your whole family, and wishing you all the best in the years to come.
Yes, happy birthday, Britta, and we hope we visit you maybe 60 years from now.
Join the club, Britta.
That's true.
Britta is a very fun person. She is a wonderful companion, a wonderful lover, a wonderful wife, a wonderful mother. And I really wish her a wonderful, happy birthday. And I can't wait to see what she'll be like at age 80 now that she turns better and better every year. Happy birthday.
dreams that you dream of, dreams really do come true. Ooh, someday you wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top, that's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Bluebirds fly, and the dream that you dare to, oh why can't I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white and the brightness of day. I like the dark and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands singing, how do you do? They really say, I love you. I hear babies cry and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Someday I wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind. Be where trouble melts like a lemon drops, high above the chimney top, that's where you find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way